Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming. It's time to talk about Rafa and one of the best builds in the entire game. To begin with the best Rafa build concept, we've got to cut it up into the three main focuses. And when it comes to single target and AoE, the Peacebreaker cannons are just obviously the best. You activate them, and then they start doing work for you. If it's multiple targets, it doesn't matter. If it's single target, it doesn't matter. Meanwhile, with the lance, there is some thought behind each shot. If you're going to charge it, and how you're going to aim it, you're going to position to pierce through multiple targets, that kind of thing. Lastly, you have the arc knives, which automatically put you up in front, exposed, and frankly, the control and moveset for this thing is very clunky. They call it the gimmick build themselves, and you can see why. So, as everyone and their mother has quickly realized, the cannon arms are just too damn reliable compared to the other two, and compared to the rest of the characters and their setups, it's one of the best. So, what are you going to do to enhance them? You may have heard this a lot by now, but it's Ricochet as a concept, due to the ridiculous potential that happens when you chain ricochets. So have a look at this. This is just a quick single target example in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode at endgame. I didn't even have to keep firing here. A lot of the damage was coming from the triggered ricochets via my action skill, not even my direct shots. So it's important to understand that this is all set up by crit strike chance, crit damage, and a lot of other stacking concepts. But first you want to understand Ricochet, so let's talk about that. Why Rafa is so good at ricocheting is because it's built into his skill tree. The obvious example is lateral plinking, which is easy to achieve. Your indirect projectiles begin to ricochet with a chance to do so. And so it's coming from indirect projectiles, but what is that? Indirect projectiles are just projectiles that are coming from not your gun. So that does mean your action skill weapons, the Peacebreaker cannons, count as indirect projectiles. That works incredible then against many targets for good clear speed, but obviously it's relevant in single target. So again, you can see how the Ricochet chains off itself as the cannons fire, dealing godly DPS while I don't have to do anything. So our goal is to trigger the Ricochet as much as possible and improve that output, enhancing indirect damage as much as we can, while maintaining as much action skill duration as possible. And what's great is that you can largely do this by using the skill tree. Obviously gear on top further encourages it, but that's why the build works super well while leveling. For weapons though, you're going to see that there's a heavy focus on Jakobs parts in general, because as you can see, Jakobs parts, critical hits will ricochet projectiles to nearby enemies. So by firing this and getting a crit, we're guaranteeing that ricochet effect, and then that feeds into itself. Double or auto shoot is when you turn the cannons into shotguns. And there's a lot of potential with that by the increased pellet count and ricochet relevance to that, but the main thing here is critical hits always ricochet. So if you're able to have guaranteed crits, you're always ricocheting with your Peacebreaker cannons, which is why they're doing a lot of the work for you. You can massively improve your crit strike chance and damage by using Instincto, because it provides big crit strike chance, and then on the double activation, even more, and crit hit damage on top. We improve the output of all of our damage through Temerio, which gives you this stacking gun damage concept, reaching 10 stacks very quick, and then we stay at that as long as possible. And we double all overdrive bonuses with Soltado, because overdrive itself is giving you straight up damage percent, as well as really nice movement speed. All of this combines into a ridiculous machine, where whenever your action skill's active, it's killing everything for you either way. Everything around that, you're setting up as much ricochet as you can, spreading the output, one-shotting enemies, even in the endgame, even in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, like you see here. So let's run down my setup for this concept and talk about why everything is doing what it's doing and why we pick it. Firstly, most important thing here is deft hands, because it's going to give you the increased fire rate, not just for you, but for the Peacebreaker cannons. Like we said, they're ricocheting, they're doing a lot of the output. We need to improve their ability to do that, so that's the obvious choice. That brings us to our Augment Instincto, which just gives you straight up crit strike chance. And then if you activate it again, double your crit strike chance and the crit strike damage. But the problem here is your action skill begins to drain quicker. So you want to maintain it as much as possible. The early version of doing that is from this passive. Whenever you crit, your action skill duration is restored. We're critting a lot. It's feeding into itself, it's keeping it going as long as possible. Next we have the 3 points into Maestro, increasing your skill damage, quite literally enhancing the power of the cannons. Now we need 2 points to continue. In my opinion, you've got two choices: 2 points into the gun damage from a basic passive here, or 2 points here, where you get increased damage based on the shields that you have. Now for me, that's completely useless, because right now, I actually don't have any shields, because I'm using the Timekeeper shield, which gets rid of all of your shield but gives you massive health and damage reduction, so there's actually a lot of fun stuff you can do with that concept. Either way, make your choice, it doesn't matter massively in this case, but improving your gun damage feels great, at least you'll be stronger in a reliable way. So with 2 points spent there, you get down to the next part of the tree, where we begin working on the Ricochet concept. First up, we have asymmetric warfare. Indirect projectiles gain increased damage. So again, our cannons, all non-gun projectiles, so our throwing knives, they all get buffed up by this, which includes ricochet damage itself. Next we have Errant Spark. All of those indirect projectiles, including ricochet damage, deals bonus incendiary damage, and it doubles that bonus if the indirect projectile's already dealing fire damage itself. This should bring you to your Capstone, where of course we're going double or auto shot. As I explained, this turns them into the shotguns. There's a lot of power and potential there. You want to play up close because they're shotguns. But importantly, critical hits now always ricochet. So with all the crit that we're getting from the build, it's all guaranteed ricocheting, which is ridiculous and reliable as hell. This is one of the main power spikes you're going to experience while leveling. Right here with 1 point to the side though, we do have lateral plinking, which is very important. All indirect projectiles gain a chance to ricochet, so your Peacebreaker cannons are starting to ricochet a lot. We can enhance the damage of the cannons actually by coming to arc knives. The first 5 points here, Midnight Oil, it means that your action skill starts to deal corrosive damage. From here we're going to go down onto the right side of the tree before we look at hostile acquisition. That's for Everdrive. Overdrive gains increased duration. 5 out of 5, that's plus 35%. Overdrive is giving us straight up increased damage. Either way, this brings us to Temerio, giving us increased gun damage in exchange for decreased gun handling, as we get stacks of this passive. It's 8% increase per second, you get to 10 stacks very quickly, and then while you're at 10 stacks, you're a monster. So you build that up and maintain it as long as possible by maintaining the concept of your action skill duration. Lastly, we have Soldado, which basically doubles your overdrive bonuses, feeding into it even stronger for its duration. Then we just have the leftover points. The first thing I'd recommend is fully going into hostile acquisition. A lot of the concept of this is to be up close with the shotguns, whether you're using one or whether you're using the Peacebreaker shotgun cannons. This gives you unbelievable lifesteal from indirect projectiles. So all those ricochets, every bit of damage that you're dealing from the cannons themselves, it's giving you lifesteal, keeping you alive. So I think that's pretty fantastic. With that, you're going to have 2 leftover points, where I put it into the gun damage once again, just to finish that off as much as possible. Yeah, that's the setup and how it all kind of combines. Looking at specializations then when you're in the end game, it's a pretty obvious choice. We need to make sure our action skill is up as much as possible. It's where most of our power is. So action skill cooldown rate is super important in this build. You can get it from specialization by infinitely putting points into Daredevil. So it's the obvious choice. To get there, you need to put 10 points into Sharpshooter and Runner, but this does get you to in the zone. So while you're aiming, you get increased gun damage and crit hit damage. So aiming in and now and then is really nice, especially if you're prepping for the next shot. You can have Bullet Train, so you can hip fire while sprinting, which is really fun. There is I Am a Gun. Your action skill damage now benefits from gun damage. So all of the gun damage that we're dealing, like the various bonuses we got from the skill tree, feeds into the cannons, making them stronger. And lastly, a Honed Mind, super important. Action skills gain a chance to critically hit enemies, but also have increased crit damage too. So it's just unbelievable. Those are the 4 that I'm running, and I'm putting all my points from here on into Daredevil. Right, let's talk about equipment, because obviously this is important. There are legendary examples that are going to be great that I'll at least mention, but the main thing that you need to have with whatever main weapon you're using at the time is it needs to be a Jakobs something. Again, that is for the ricochet concept. Jakobs parts cause critical hits to ricochet projectiles. So that's the basis. You need to be using a Jakobs part weapon at the very least. You can see how that can come in the form of a pistol, and that can be fun. But you can do the same by sniping with Jakobs parts. But since you're going to be up close and personal, since you're using shotgun cannons on your shoulders, well, it makes sense to go for a shotgun, SMG, maybe even an assault rifle. Now, if you've completed the story, currently the weekly wildcard mission is this one, a lot to process. And what that rewards is a Jakobs shotgun. So right now, this is an incredible way to get set up post-campaign, and my number 1 recommendation for the moment. The Rainbow Vomit shotgun has some really interesting effects. It gets color spray, so you get 3 different sort of statuses. In this case, I've got corrosive, incendiary, and radiation, but you can see with the one that I was using before this, It does cryo, incendiary, and shock. Right now, I could damn well use some shock in this build, so it might be worth running that mission quite a few times until you get one that has shock on it. So I would say the most important thing to have is incendiary and shock of those 3 droplet types. The alt fire is fun. It just fires this like gravity thing. You fire this at a location, it pulls all the enemies in, and then you get to sort of chain AoE them. But ultimately, it's a Jakobs shotgun. That's what we're looking for. A legendary with relevant effects, awesome. The fact that you've got a reliable way to farm that over the next couple of days before the weekly reset is really helpful. But again, it could be any setup as long as it's a Jakobs. But there are other examples you could get for different Jakobs legendaries, like this one I found twice while doing the campaign. Just don't freak out if you don't have like the exact same setup and legendaries as me. As long as you got a solid Jakobs source of output, ideally involving incendiary, I think you're good to go. Right, now we have our 5 other slots, starting with the rep kit. The rep kit can come with 2 passives that are going to be relevant for you. Leech for lifesteal is great because it's going to keep you alive, and we have bonuses to lifesteal as we looked at, but obviously anything that's going to help your fire rate and action skill cooldown. So in my case, when I use this, I get 100% increased skill cooldown rate for 8 seconds. So I'll intentionally pop this while my action skill's down to bring it back. For Ordinance, this is an important one. We have a knife, because that is a Jakob weapon. As a knife, it is a indirect projectile, so it's getting all the bonuses of that. And there's some key concepts here that you want to be looking for. Damage and payload means the damage taken by the impacted target is increased by 15% for 5 seconds. So any target I'm trying to actually destroy, I need to make sure I throw this knife at them beforehand. This isn't on every Jakob knife though, it is a roll. Like this one has divider payload by comparison. This other one I'm using, it has that same payload. That's what we're looking for. But why I'm using this lower level one is that I don't care about the damage of the knife as much as I care about the effects. Penetrator Augment is ridiculous. So damage to the impacted target are automatic critical hits for 5 seconds, meaning 100% crit strike chance. I can maintain this guaranteed crit strike chance on a target. That's an unbelievable passive to find. There is another one you can find too, Bouncing Blade Augment. It ricochets additional knives towards nearby enemies, dealing bonus damage as a fun extra clear thing, but obviously it's nowhere near as good as Penetrator Augment. Check out this perfectly rolled one that was on the Reddit today. You got the damage amp payload, you got the Penetrator Augment, and then they also have Express. Grenade cooldown duration is reduced by 20%. So they're able to throw more knives in general, maintaining that effect on every target that they put it on. That'd be perfect. Right, next up we have the class mod. What you're looking for in your class mod is anything that's going to provide skills in your skill tree that are relevant. For me, I'm doing pretty well here with Temerio, Soldato at the same time. That's why I have 2 of this passive and 8 of this one, even though they cap at 5 and 1, further enhancing their potential. Lateral plinking would be in another one to double the ricochet chance from indirect projectiles. But anything that's actually maintaining, functioning, and strengthening the build, that'd be what I'd aim for. For the passives, I've done amazing. We got critical hit damage, and we got the action skill cooldown rate. But obviously, this is a legendary as well, so it has a special bonus. My overdrive bonuses are increased by 100%, so doubled, but overdrive ends when Rafa's action skill ends. It's a bit awkward. I could benefit from the overdrive after my action skill's down if I didn't have this, so the duration effects would actually matter. But the thing is, I'm trying to go down and back into my action skill as much as possible. And while it's going, overdrive is going. So I'm getting that bonus while I'm stacking everything else at the same time. So I think this is fantastic. It's definitely one to look for. For your shield, it really is just the best that you can find. This is mostly just a defensive thing. But I am using Timekeepers, which gets rid of all my shield, gives me damage reduction, massive health and big health regeneration. I think it's fantastic. And lastly, we have the enhancement. You want one for Jakobs? There's 2 that I want to talk about. There's Sequencer, which basically means for single target, as you land consecutive critical hits on a target, you're getting bonus damage, stacking up to 8 times. Obviously, that's amazing. But it's more for single target. In AoE, I'd run this one. Leaper. Guns with Jakob licensed parts gain a 40% chance to ricochet non-critical hits. So anytime that I don't get a crit, there is at least a bonus. And with shotguns and all the pellets, there's a good chance of that. So it just helps you in AoE clear. So that's the single target in AoE version to be aware of. The last thing we need to talk about is firmware. As you reach like level 30 or around a certain point in the campaign, you start to see drops of this, and obviously in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode in the endgame, more and more. Right now, I can't give you the perfect recommendations, but I can give you the ones that I've been looking at. Firstly, we have Trick Shot. At 3 out of 3, this means critical hits have a 50% chance to refill 1 ammo in your gun's magazine, helping me just keep firing, which is really nice. But at 2 out of 3, gun critical damage is up by 10%, as well as reload speed from 1, so I think that's really handy. But I did say that action skill cooldown rate is the most important thing here to keep my gun cannons going. So this one is the one that I'm aiming for. At level 1 you get 10% on the action skill cooldown rate. At level 2 we get skill damage, which is incredible. And at level 3 an extra 20% on the cooldown rate. So it's hard to beat something like this. This is my number 1 suggestion. Otherwise right now I just have things that are relevant. So Lifeblood gives me rep kit healing and lifesteal, that kind of thing. Bullets to spare gives me fire rate, magazine size. There's others like High Caliber, which ultimately gives you a chance to pierce with bullets, and Oscar Mike for higher fire rate. Those would also be good. But yeah, that's my overview of Rafa's best build, the Ricochet concept enhanced as much as I possibly can. I hope my take on what has become a very popular build helps you understand how it works and how to actually get it going. To say the least, it's pretty damn strong, so I think it'll do very well for you. Until next time then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.